You just cannot beat the quality of that. That is restaurant quality at home. That is stunning. Look how well cooked that is. Moist, cooked perfectly. Hi everyone, welcome to Backyard Chef. I'm Rick. Today we're taking the restaurant back home. We're making a real restaurant quality meal at home. On here I have some sea bass. I've got some tarragon. So we are going to make a sea bass with a tarragon cream sauce. Very posh, very nice. Little bit of lemon on there, lemon slices, etc. We're going to make it as you can make at home. No fancy pans, pan in the oven, whatever. We're going to make it bog standard pan, but the fish is going in the oven. Oven has to be on at 200 degrees. And we want to put a tray in the oven to warm up. Our sea bass, beautiful piece of fish this look, very wet, nice and chunky. You can use cod, anything like that. We have to be patting it dry. There will be some fluid in this, there you go. Just pat it dry because we need to stick some olive oil on there with salt and pepper. And we don't want all the moisture. We want to crisp up the skin in a pan, nice and straightforward. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to take that on there like that. I'm just going to put a little bit over the top whilst I prep my tarragon and onion. So that is just drawing the moisture out of there. I'll only put it there, you can see. On here, fresh tarragon, beautiful. If you can't get fresh tarragon, use dried. So for all the people that don't know about tarragon, tarragon has like a licoricey anisey flavour. So you've got that licoricey aniseed flavour. It's absolutely beautiful. So all we're doing, look, is we're taking off some leaves. We want a couple of tablespoons of chopped leaves. So we're going to take our tarragon and we are going to give it a quick mincing over with a knife. Nice and straightforward. Now you can go as big as small as you want. It depends what you want in your sauce. That will do nicely in there. Okay, if you can get shallot, use a shallot. Got a small onion here, look. That's all we need. We just want a little bit of onion flavour in our tarragon sauce. Now you can slice and dice and do whatever you want. It depends how big you want it. But we're going to go for something like this. Right, another tub. What did I do with that tub? Here we go. In there. A little bit of a lemon here, look. We're just going to come across there because we're going to have a couple of lemon slices at the end. That's all. Okay, in with our fish. Our fish has been drying under there, look. We got a little bit of moisture out of there. That's nice, that. You know, this weighs about 300 grams. In the recipe, I'll put in for a couple of 150 to 200 gram pieces. That's enough for two people. If you're serving it with a little bit of sides and stuff. Right, we're going to go on there with a little bit of oil. And what we're going to do is we're just going to give that a little one of those on there. Fabulous. Okay. Now everybody does it their own way. I'm just going to show you an easy way to make at home. We want a little bit of sea salt on there. Want a little bit of pepper on there. Now you don't have to season it if you don't want. That's entirely up to you. A little bit of sea salt on there. A little bit more pepper on there. That's it, job done. Okay, let's get cooking. Dry pan on. Now we want to heat up this pan. You don't have to go crazy. Just heat up the pan. Nice warm bottom. We've got enough oil on that fish to start this off. And I'll just show you the flame is ridiculously low. Now this is a basic non-stick pan, the same as everybody. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to take our fish and we're just going to put the fish in there. Like that. And we're going to leave it alone. Now you can take something that's weighted, this is not very heavy, and just put it over the top. You can take a pan, anything, and put it on there. Now this pan does not fit this ring thing, I can tell you that now, but it's still going to give us a sear, I hope. Now what I'm going to do is a little drizzle of olive oil in there, and we don't need a lot of olive oil. Okay, we've got oil on the fish, and then what we're going to do, when it warms up a little bit, we're just going to get the oil towards the sides of the fish. And what you'll see is eventually it'll start to go opaque up the sides. So what we do by putting the tray in the oven, and it's just a little tip, that when we do this fish, we try and get a sear, a nice golden sear on the fish skin. And this should be holding it down flat enough to actually get the sear. Okay, and then what we do, we flip it. We're going to have this about 3 minutes on here, between 2 to 3 minutes. We'll flip it over, we'll give it about 30 seconds on the fish side. Comes out, it goes on a hot tray, fish side down, skin side up. Okay, and then what happens then, it cooks in the oven, but the moisture does not make the skin soft, because the tray is hot that it's going on. Just a little trick. Okay, everybody has their own way. You know, we're not working in a restaurant, we don't have griddle pans and everything, you know, arranged. We're doing the same effect in a non-stick pan, and it's going in the oven. The fish will be cooked in the oven between 6 to 8 minutes, depends how you like it. This is a big piece of fish. A good 6 minutes on here and it'll still have that soft centre. I'm going more towards 8 because these days, you know, I don't tend to eat anything that's not reasonably cooked. Okay, just old age. But it's up to you. You know, you can see there, look, we got a little sizzle going on around there. You can just bring in that olive oil like that. Keep it flat. We don't turn it over, we don't touch it, we don't mess around with it at all. Just leave it alone. Okay, we've had a couple of minutes, let's have a look. There we go, look, we've got a beautiful sear on there, look. Now, we can go a little bit more. So just go a little bit more. See if we can get a little bit more golden on there. Okay, we can have that off there. A quick drying on there, look, because that's had all that oil and stuff on there. Moisture that's come off the fish. Right, we're going to flip this fish for 30 seconds. We'll take that tray out in that 30 seconds, okay? So it's nice, it's steady, it's straight over. Now, you can put that back on if you wish. So we're counting, that'll do. That is nice and crispy on there, look, golden. That is beautiful. This tray comes out, it's absolutely steaming. Let's just put it on there. And we take our fish from there. Our fish goes on this hot tray like that in the oven. It's sitting in the oven. It's going to be in there about 6 minutes. Now for the tarragon sauce, we don't have a real lot of oil and stuff in there, but if you think that's too much, you take it a little bit out. We only want a little bit in there. You don't clean the pan, not for this one. All those little bits in there are absolutely fine. Not too high a flame. We want about a tablespoon of butter in there with that little bit of oil. That gives us a little sizzle on, look. Now we're not browning the butter or anything like that, we just whiz it round the pan. We're going in there with our shallot or onions, and we just want a little cooking on there. Just take that rawness out. So that's got a little bit of cooking on there, look. We want to go in with a little bit of white wine. In we go. We want about 120 mils, somewhere around about there. And we reduce this by half. Okay, when you've got that reduced by half, in with about the same amount of cream. Just bring that in. Fabulous. In there, Dijon mustard, about a good teaspoon. Give that a little whiz round. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Now you could put it in at the end if you wanted, that's up to you. So we're just cooking for a little bit of thickness there. In there with your tarragon. A little stir on. Beautiful. What a fabulous smell. That is a beautiful smell right there. That is a fantastic little tarragon sauce. You know, it's only taken about 5 minutes. That's in there. It's going to come together pretty quickly to, you know, at the same time. Now you're only looking for a slightly thickened sauce. You ain't looking for a thick sauce. That is good enough. Look at that. That is what you want. Something like that. Job done. Flame off, we serve up. Come on. Now what you can do to freshen this, you can go in there with a little squeeze of lemon. So it's nice and straightforward. It's on there with some sauce. Out with that beautiful crusted fish onto there. A little bit of lemon on there and a little sprinkling of tarragon. There you go, the perfect restaurant quality fish at home. Just look at that. That is absolutely sensational. Okay, we're in. Okay, we'll just take that little bit of lemon off there. We don't want that on there. Now look, that is crispy skin. That is beautiful. That is really beautiful skin on there. Now you can go on there now you've seen the crispy skin, you can go on there with a little bit of lemon if you want. We need to be having a look at this fish. So let's just get in here. I'm using a spoon. See how crispy it is, look. It's joined up. In there. Look at that fish. That is absolutely stunning. That is stunning. Look how well cooked that is. Moist, cooked perfectly. Come on. Let's give it a taste. Ooh, look at the steam coming off this thing. That is one heck of a high quality meal right there. You just cannot beat the quality of that. That is restaurant quality at home. That is superb. You know, you've got a lovely crispy skin on there, and I actually like the skin. Let's have a go at this. There you go. Love the skin on fish. Oh yeah. That is absolutely delicious. There you go. That is how to make a restaurant quality meal at home. Serve it with new potatoes, peas, whatever. Mash, entirely up to you. If you like what we're doing, don't forget, share with your friends. Tell your friends how to make sea bass with a creamy tarragon sauce. And if you do like what we're doing, big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell, and we'll catch you in the next video. Come on, look at that. Oh yeah.